My wife became a doctor and celebrated by filing for divorce the same day. 3 years later, the day my wife became a doctor was supposed to be the happiest day of our lives. Instead, it became the day she left me. I still remember standing outside the medical school auditorium, holding a bouquet of white roses in one hand and our 6-year-old daughter Emma's tiny hand in the other. My heart was bursting with pride. For 10 years, I had done everything I could to help Sarah achieve her dream. I worked double shifts. I sold my motorcycle. I emptied my savings account. I even postponed my own career ambitions because one of us had to stay steady while the other chased a dream. And I never regretted it. Not once. Because when you love someone, their success feels like your success. At least, that's what I believed. The graduation ceremony ended with applause, cheers, and flashing cameras. Families surrounded their loved ones. Sarah walked toward us wearing her black graduation gown and medical hood. She looked beautiful, stronger, more confident than I had ever seen her. Emma ran toward her. "Mommy, Mommy, you did it." Sarah smiled and hugged her. Then she looked at me. Her expression changed. Something felt different, cold, distant. I handed her the flowers. "I'm proud of you," I said. She accepted them without enthusiasm. "Thanks." That single word hit me strangely. Before I could say anything else, she reached into her bag and handed me a large envelope. "I think you should read this." I laughed nervously. "What is it?" "You'll see." Then she turned away and began taking photos with her classmates. Confused, I opened the envelope. Inside were divorce papers. My hands started shaking. At first, I honestly thought it was some kind of mistake. A cruel joke. But it wasn't. There was a signed letter attached. I read every word while the sounds of celebration echoed around me. "We've grown apart. I need a different future. I can't continue this marriage." The words blurred together. My chest felt hollow. 10 years. 10 years of sacrifice. 10 years of believing we were building something together. And she chose to end it on the very day she achieved her dream. Emma looked up at me. "Daddy, why are you crying?" I quickly wiped my eyes. "I'm okay, sweetheart." But I wasn't. Not even close. 3 months later, the divorce was finalized. Sarah received a prestigious residency position in another state. She wanted full custody. The court granted shared custody, but because of her schedule, Emma ended up spending most of her time with me. Ironically, the woman who claimed she needed a new future rarely had time for the daughter she fought so hard to keep. Life became difficult. Very difficult. I was 38 years old, heartbroken, and struggling financially. The savings I had built were gone. The house had been sold during the divorce. Emma and I moved into a small apartment. There were nights when I sat alone after she went to sleep, wondering where everything had gone wrong. But every morning, Emma gave me a reason to keep going. "Daddy, can we make pancakes? Daddy, can you braid my hair? Daddy, can we watch cartoons?" Little by little, she helped heal wounds she didn't even know existed. One rainy afternoon, about a year after the divorce, something happened that changed my life. I was driving home from work when I saw an elderly man struggling to push a wheelchair through the rain. A woman sat in the chair, wrapped in a soaked blanket. Cars passed by without stopping. People looked away. I don't know why. Maybe because I knew what it felt like to be abandoned. I pulled over immediately. "Can I help?" The old man looked exhausted. His eyes filled with relief. For the next hour, I helped them reach a nearby shelter and arranged transportation to a hospital. Before leaving, the elderly woman grabbed my hand. "Thank you," she whispered. I smiled. It was nothing. But to them, it wasn't nothing. I never expected to see them again. Yet life has a strange way of bringing people back. A month later, I received a phone call. The elderly man introduced himself as William Harper. Apparently, he and his wife owned a charitable foundation that supported struggling families and community projects. He invited me to lunch. I almost declined, but something told me to go. During lunch, he asked me about my life. For the first time in years, someone genuinely listened. I told him everything. The marriage, the divorce, the sacrifices, the challenges of raising Emma alone. He listened quietly. When I finished, he leaned back. "You know what impressed me most?" "What?" "You helped 2 strangers when you had every reason to focus only on yourself." I shrugged. It seemed like the right thing to do. He smiled. That's exactly why people like you matter. That lunch turned into friendship. The friendship turned into opportunities. Over the next 2 years, William introduced me to people involved in community development and nonprofit work. Eventually, I was offered a leadership role at a growing charitable organization. For the first time in years, I felt purposeful again. I wasn't becoming wealthy, but I was making a difference. And surprisingly, success followed. The organization expanded nationwide, donations increased, projects multiplied. I found myself speaking at conferences and leading initiatives that helped thousands of families. Meanwhile, Emma thrived. She grew into a bright, compassionate young girl. And every accomplishment felt more meaningful because we achieved it together. Then came the day that changed everything. 3 years after Sarah handed me those divorce papers, I attended a fundraising gala in Chicago. Hundreds of guests filled the ballroom. Business leaders, philanthropists, medical professionals, community advocates. I was one of the keynote speakers. As I walked toward the stage, I noticed a familiar face sitting near the front. Sarah. For a moment, time stopped. She looked older, not physically, emotionally. The confidence she once carried so proudly seemed replaced by exhaustion. She stared at me in complete shock. Apparently, she had no idea I would be there. Neither did I. I stepped onto the stage and delivered my speech. I talked about resilience, kindness, second chances, the importance of helping people without expecting anything in return. The audience responded with a standing ovation. When I finished, dozens of people approached me. Among them was Sarah. She waited until everyone else had left. Then she spoke. "You've done well." I nodded politely. "Thank you." An awkward silence followed. Finally, she looked down. I made a mistake. I had imagined hearing those words hundreds of times. But when they finally came, they didn't feel the way I expected. There was no satisfaction, no victory, just sadness. "What happened?" I asked. Her eyes became glassy. The life I thought I wanted wasn't what I imagined. She explained everything. The prestigious medical career, the long hours, the failed relationships, the loneliness, the constant pressure, the endless pursuit of success. She had achieved everything she once dreamed about, yet somehow felt emptier than ever. Then she said something that stunned me. "I spent years chasing titles and status." Her voice cracked, and I threw away the one person who loved me before I had any of it. For a moment, neither of us spoke. I thought about the man I had been 3 years earlier. The broken husband standing outside a graduation ceremony holding divorce papers. That version of me would have wanted revenge, validation, an apology. But life had changed me. Pain had changed me. I looked at Sarah and saw someone carrying her own regrets. Someone trapped by choices she could never undo. Then she asked quietly, "Can you ever forgive me?" I took a deep breath. The ballroom lights reflected off the polished floor. People laughed in distant corners. Music played softly, and suddenly, I realized something. Forgiveness wasn't about her. It was about me. Holding on to bitterness would only keep old wounds alive. So I smiled gently. "I forgave you a long time ago." Tears rolled down her face. Real tears. Not dramatic, not performative, just human. For several seconds, she couldn't speak. Then she whispered, "Thank you." That could have been the end. But life had one final surprise. A few weeks later, Emma's school organized a community volunteer event. Dozens of families participated. Children packed food boxes for struggling households. Parents helped distribute supplies. As I walked through the gymnasium, I noticed Sarah standing near one of the tables. She had volunteered too. Emma ran between us carrying canned goods. "Look," she shouted proudly. I packed 20 boxes. Sarah and I laughed simultaneously. For a brief moment, the years of pain seemed distant. Not erased, just transformed. We spent the day helping families together. Nothing romantic, nothing dramatic, just 2 parents supporting their daughter and serving others. At the end of the event, an elderly woman approached us. She had received one of the food packages. Her eyes filled with tears. "You have no idea what this means to me." Emma smiled. "We're happy to help." The woman hugged her tightly. Watching that moment, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Peace. Real peace. Not because my life had become perfect. Not because the past had disappeared. But because kindness had carried us through the darkest chapters. The same kindness that led me to stop for strangers in the rain. The same kindness that helped me rebuild after heartbreak. The same kindness Emma now carried naturally in her own heart. As the sun set outside the gymnasium windows, I looked at my daughter laughing with other volunteers. And I realized that losing the life I thought I wanted had led me to the life I was meant to have. A life filled with purpose. A life filled with people who genuinely cared. A life built not on status or achievement, but on compassion. And for the first time in many years, I wouldn't have changed a single thing.